He escaped in handcuffs. The courtroom turned into a battlefield. The break that shook the courtroom. Before we dive in, make sure you hit subscribe because what you're about to hear is one of the most shocking escapes ever caught on camera, and trust me, you won't believe how it ended. It was a bright Monday morning in Nashville, Tennessee. Courtroom 4B was packed. Reporters, family members, and officers lined the walls as Ethan Cole, a 34-year-old inmate accused of murder, was escorted in. His orange jumpsuit was crisp, his wrists clamped tight in steel cuffs, and his stare, cold, unwavering. Ethan wasn't just another defendant. He was the man accused of killing Deputy Raymond Lasker, a correctional officer with 20 years on the force. The crime had sparked outrage across the state, and this trial was supposed to bring justice. But that morning, justice was the last thing that would happen. At exactly 10:27 a.m., as the prosecution began presenting its evidence, a sudden metallic snap echoed through the courtroom. Witnesses later said they thought it was a chair collapsing, until they saw Ethan standing wrists free, one cuff dangling like a broken promise. Chaos erupted. The bailiffs lunged, but Ethan was faster. In a move that looked almost rehearsed, he vaulted the wooden barrier, snatched a deputy's taser, and sprinted for the side exit. Gasps turned to screams as he shoved through the stunned jurors and vanished into the corridor. Outside, cameras rolled as panic took over. Officers yelled for lockdown. Reporters dropped their microphones trying to capture what they were witnessing, an inmate escaping in handcuffs right from under the judge's gavel. The next moments were a blur. Ethan disappeared through a maintenance door, slipping past a janitor who later said, "He looked right at me, calm like he already knew where he was going." By the time police sealed the exits, he was gone. Within minutes, the courthouse turned into a war zone. Sirens wailed. SWAT officers surrounded the perimeter. Nearby schools were locked down. Every officer in Davidson County had one mission: bring Ethan Cole in alive. As the hours passed, more details emerged. Ethan had somehow loosened his cuffs with a file hidden inside his shoe, a trick no one could explain. Investigators believed someone helped him smuggle it in, possibly during one of his pretrial transfers. And then came the twist. Surveillance footage showed a court officer holding the door open just moments before Ethan escaped. The same officer vanished right after the chaos. That night, the story dominated every news channel in America. Courtroom escape gone wrong, manhunt for killer who fled during trial. Was it an inside job? Ethan's face was plastered on every screen, every phone. He was labeled armed, dangerous, and desperate. But the truth was far stranger. Because behind the chaos, behind the panic, was a plan Ethan had been crafting for almost 2 years. Every motion filed, every delay, every witness statement, it was all part of a bigger picture no one had seen. By nightfall, helicopters circled over the Cumberland River. The courthouse was sealed like a fortress. But as one detective reviewed the footage again, he noticed something off. Ethan hadn't just run randomly. He'd run toward something. Toward the old courthouse garage, where prisoners used to be transported decades ago, before the building was renovated. The underground passage hadn't been used in years. Until that day. Detective Ramirez stared at the paused footage, Ethan disappearing into the darkness of that old tunnel, and whispered, "He didn't escape from the courthouse, he escaped through it." And just when officers began tracing that tunnel, a radio call came through. "Unit 7, we've got a deputy down behind the courthouse, and it looks like his car's gone." The manhunt had officially begun. The manhunt and the betrayal inside. Hit that subscribe button if you're new, because this is where the story gets darker. The escape was just the beginning. What came next turned a small Tennessee manhunt into a national scandal. By sunrise, the streets of Nashville were crawling with officers. Drones buzzed overhead, helicopters scanned the rivers, and tactical units blocked every highway leading out of the city. Ethan Cole, the man who escaped the courtroom in handcuffs, had now been missing for nearly 10 hours. But something wasn't adding up. Detective Maria Ramirez, leading the investigation, sat in the dim courthouse security office replaying the footage again and again. Every second of Ethan's escape told her one thing: he had help. At exactly 10:26 and 41 seconds a.m., the camera caught a uniformed officer adjusting his belt near the service door. Ethan ran straight toward him seconds later, and the officer didn't move, didn't flinch, just stepped aside. That officer was Deputy Carl Henning, a 15-year veteran of the courthouse security unit, and the same man whose patrol car was now missing. When Ramirez got to Henning's apartment that afternoon, she found the door wide open, the bed unmade, the fridge empty. On the counter, an open beer and a courthouse access badge still blinking red. It wasn't a kidnapping. Henning had left, willingly. Back downtown, the media was tearing the story apart. Every channel ran the same footage: Ethan breaking free, the gavel slamming, guards chasing chaos. Commentators debated whether it was an inside job or a massive system failure. But inside the police command center, something else was happening. A deputy came rushing in, holding a printed email recovered from Henning's work computer. It was short, but it made everyone freeze. "He didn't kill Lasker. You're all hunting the wrong man." Ramirez's stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" she asked. Another detective, old and tired, whispered, "Lasker was the guard Ethan supposedly killed, right?" She nodded. "Then who the hell did kill him?" Hours later, a call came in from a truck stop 2 towns over. A witness had spotted a man in cuffs buying gas, wearing a deputy's jacket. The surveillance camera caught his reflection: Ethan Cole, calm as ever, driving away in Henning's cruiser. On the back seat of the car, the police later found something strange: an envelope marked "for Ramirez." Inside was a single photograph. It showed Ethan's wife, Laura, and their young son, smiling in front of their old house, the same house that had burned down 3 years earlier. That fire was ruled an accident. But scribbled across the photo in black ink were 3 words: "Ask who lit it." Ramirez felt the ground shift beneath her. She remembered the old case file. Ethan's wife and son had died in that fire, weeks before his arrest for killing Deputy Lasker. He had always claimed the same thing, that the 2 events were connected, that someone had framed him. And now, the man who was supposed to be a murderer was pointing back toward the very people who put him away. Meanwhile, out by the Tennessee border, a trucker reported a wrecked patrol car hidden under an overpass. No blood, no body. Just tire tracks leading into the woods, and a trail of broken handcuff pieces glittering in the dirt. The manhunt expanded into 3 states. The FBI joined in. Ethan was now officially on the U.S. Marshal's top 15 most wanted list. But for Ramirez, this wasn't just about catching him anymore. It was about finding the truth. Because deep down she could feel it, Ethan wasn't running from justice. He was running toward something. That night, she reopened the old case files. There, buried under pages of testimony, was a report she'd never seen before. A maintenance log signed by Deputy Henning and Deputy Lasker, dated 2 days before the murder. The note said, "Transfer scheduled, Cole must not talk to media. Keep under tight watch. H." But written in pencil at the bottom was something faint, as if added later. Ramirez squinted to read it. "He knows about the fire." Her pulse quickened. Henning wasn't protecting Ethan. He was protecting a secret. And somewhere out there, the escaped inmate they all called a killer was getting closer to proving he wasn't one. But the truth he was chasing would soon turn the entire case upside down. Because the real killer wasn't hiding in the woods. He was still wearing a badge. The truth beneath the badge. If you've made it this far, hit subscribe. Because what happens next is the part they never showed on the news. This isn't just an escape story, it's the moment truth broke through every wall the system built. 3 days after the courthouse escape, the state of Tennessee was on lockdown. Over 500 officers, federal marshals, and helicopters scanned miles of wilderness. But Ethan Cole had vanished like smoke. The FBI believed he was long gone, maybe across state lines. But Detective Maria Ramirez knew better. Ethan wasn't hiding. He was hunting. She followed every clue: the photo of his wife and son, the pencil note, the strange connection between deputies Henning and Lasker. Then came a breakthrough. A gas station clerk outside Clarksville reported a man leaving behind a courthouse folder. Inside were case transcripts, each one marked with red ink over certain lines. Fire report inconsistent. Witness statement changed. Insurance payout tripled. Ramirez froze. Ethan wasn't just trying to prove his innocence. He was exposing a cover-up. Back in 2019, the fire that killed his family had been labeled accidental. But as Ramirez cross-checked the names on the old investigation team, she found something chilling. Both Henning and Lasker were part of the original arson response unit. They weren't heroes. They were suspects. That same night, at 11:47 p.m., a security alert went out. Motion detected inside the abandoned Cumberland training facility, an old police storage compound set for demolition. When the tactical team arrived, they found one of the outer gates already unlocked. Inside the dark hallways, flashlight beams danced across decades of dust and rusted lockers. And then they saw it, a single courtroom bench dragged from storage sitting under a flickering light. On it lay a body. It was Deputy Carl Henning. Dead. A gunshot wound to the chest. Beside him, Ethan's handcuffs, now fully broken. At first glance, it looked like a standoff gone wrong. But Ramirez noticed something the others didn't. Henning's gun was clean. No prints. And there was a camera mounted high above, still recording. She ordered everyone out and pressed play. The grainy footage showed the truth. Henning had arrived first, carrying a duffel bag, documents, cash, and a weapon. Minutes later, Ethan appeared, still wearing the deputy jacket he'd stolen. He wasn't armed. His voice was low, trembling but sharp. "You burned them, Carl. My family. You and Lasker. You killed them, then pinned it on me." Henning tried to deny it, but Ethan wasn't there for blood. He was there for confession. He pushed a recorder onto the table. "Say it," he demanded. "You don't understand," Henning said. "It wasn't supposed to happen. The house was empty. Lasker said you were the target." "My son was 6 years old," Ethan whispered. Seconds later, a gunshot echoed, but it wasn't Ethan who fired. The footage showed Henning turning the weapon on himself, collapsing onto the bench. When the video ended, Ramirez exhaled slowly. The man they'd been hunting, the supposed killer, had never taken a single life since his escape. The next morning, Ramirez did the unthinkable. She released the footage to federal investigators and the media. The story exploded. Escaped inmate proves innocence, cover-up inside the sheriff's department, the fire that started it all. Public outrage followed. The governor ordered a full investigation. Ethan's charges were dropped in absentia. But where was he? A week later, a fisherman on the Cumberland River reported finding a torn deputy's jacket caught on a rock. Inside its pocket, Ethan's old family photo, water-stained but intact. There was no body. No trace. Just silence. Some said he drowned trying to flee. Others believed he disappeared, starting over somewhere far from the headlines. But Ramirez knew the truth. On her desk, weeks later, she found an unmarked envelope. Inside, a USB drive. It contained one file, a video of Ethan sitting somewhere in the mountains, wind howling behind him. "They took everything from me," he said quietly. "Now the world knows what they did. That's all I ever wanted." He looked into the camera, eyes calm, no fear left. "You don't need to find me, detective. You already did." Then the video cut to black. Ramirez watched the screen until her reflection stared back. She whispered, "He didn't escape justice. He became it." And that's how it ended. One man, one escape, one truth that burned hotter than the fire that destroyed his life. He escaped in handcuffs, but what he broke free from was far more than steel. If you thought this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe, because the next case will make this look like a warning.